Tzadi Vav Med Bet, 5 lines to the bottom. And the last thing we did was we talked about. Is it too early? No, we're on time. The last thing we did was we talked about the origins for Hotzah, which we said was when Moshe told the people to stop bringing material for the base for the Mishkan, and that was really a sign for them to stop carrying from not to carry from inside to outside, which was a Rishus Yachid to Rishus Harabim. And then from there we got into a discussion about Havara, how did they pass things, and we ended up saying that Havara, we said that Dalat Amos is really a halacha-l'mosh misina, or the term that was the Gemara used was Gemara Gemira Le. Gemara means learned. The word Gemara by the means to Gemar is Aramaic for learning, right? Mishnah is Lishanot or Lishnot, which is to learn, usually, and Gemara is really to learn, to pass on and to learn.
Mishnah, the Sheni, the second.
It's really actually from learning. V'shinantam levanecha. Now, it is related to Sheni to the extent that when you learn, you have to repeat. When you repeat, you do something a second time. No, they're cognate words.
No, but it's like Mishnah Torah. Yeah. Mishnah Torah is like the second,
Correct, okay.
Miguel says the Mishnah L'melech.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I'm just saying there's the same root. B'shinantam levanecha and Shema. Doesn't mean you're going to tell your two kids. It means you're going to teach your children. So l'shanein, shinun also means to sharpen, to study twice. So they're all really related terms. So anyways, Mishnah, of course, Matnitnan is Mishnah, and Gemara is to learn, to study, and to pass along. So when it says Gemara Gemira Law, it usually is a buzzword, means halacha-mosh misinai. So therefore, the whole concept of Dalar Amos and Rishus Harabim is a halacha-mosh misinai. We don't really have a pasuk. We don't really have a place that we can turn to. And they tried to find all kinds of cases in the Mishkan, none of which seemed to work out. Then from there, we had a discussion about what the Makoshesh, what the Makoshesh did wrong, that he did such a cardinal offense. He was collecting wood. And there were three opinions. One opinion was he was carrying 4 amot and Rishut Harabim. A second opinion was he was tolesh, he was detaching and cutting off the wood. And a third opinion, he was ma'amer, he was piling up the wood. So in piling, each of these are separate malachot. Hotzah, obviously, and Havara is the malacha we're talking about in this parak. The second one is tolesh, he was detaching. So you're detaching anything that is attached to the ground or to a tree, is a malacha of tolesh. And then there is also the malacha of ma'amer, which is piling up, and you're piling up things into bundles that have come through nature. So it was one of these three items was what the Makoshesh was doing, and the Gemara wants to know why is that important for us to know who really cares what the person did. He did something. He doesn't tell us who his name was, and we'll see in a moment who his name might have been. But why is it important for us to know? So the corollary here is the fact that there is this Megillat Starim Avisi ben Yehuda who says that there are 49 malachos that were listed, and one of them is different than the other 38. And the fact that one is not chayav al chatos, one is only a lav, a lotaseh, and we don't know which one of these 39 malachot, which one of these 38 malachot is different than that one, which is the one that's different. So if we learn that this person was Makoshesh and he was punished or he was executed, actually you see that this is an Aveira that either Hotzah or carrying 4 amot or Tolesh or detaching or Ma'amera bundling is not one of those 39 that you're not going to be subject to Chatos or to capital punishment. So that's the reason that we listed, and we're interested in knowing what was the Makoshesh, what the Makoshesh actually did, and we never really resolve it. But it does underscore the fact that there are 39 different malachot min HaTorah. We said that everybody, with the exception of Rabbi Eliezer, says that the 39 is an important number to know about because you can't max out more than 39 different chatos. So in this case, according to the Megillat Stam Avisi ben Yehuda, you can't max out at more than 38, right? Because one of the above is different. We just don't know which one. If you happen to do all of them, you couldn't do more than 38. So that's really the reason that this was put in as an adjunct to the previous piece. Having introduced this, the Gemara has a bit of an excursus, which is a bit of Agadata, which is good because you don't often get Agadata at the beginning of a parak. You got to wait till the end sometimes. So who was the Makoshesh? Tana Rabbana. So this is 5 lines from the bottom. Tana Rabbana. Makoshesh, Zet Slavchad. Who was the Makoshesh? He was Slavchad, who only had daughters. And why do we know he's...
Yeah, I guess the only part, when the daughters said that her father died from his own sin, you're right. They did
Right,
say
correct. Avinu meis bamidbar, v'hu lo yomer das.
Right, it wasn't from. Sorry.
So we know that this. Then we know Slavcha dies in the midbar. We know he's punished for some kind of sin. We don't know what the sin was. We don't know. He could have eaten chazon on Yom Kippur. Doesn't really tell us what he did wrong. But whatever it was, maybe he didn't trust the Eruv. Maybe we're just joking around, okay? So just so at any rate, so the Gemara says Mekoshes was Slavchad v'cheinu omer, and here's the pasuk. It says Vayu bnei Yisrael b'midbar vayimtzu eish Mekoshesh etzim, and he was of course executed. And then it says Lahalon omer, and then it says later on in Sefer Bamidbar, the end of Bamidbar, where the daughters of Slavchad said Avinu meis Bamidbar. So we only know of so many people who are identified as having died in the wilderness, and he sinned. The same way Avinu meis bamidbar was Slavchad, so too when the case of the Mokoshesh, which we find he was executed for a sin, that this was the same person. Who says this? Rabbi Akiva. So according to Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara actually calls this a Gzera Shava. Not quite clear what the Gzera Shava actually is. What is the verbiage? It's not word for word. It's not really, but it's a comparison between the two cases. And therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, who was Slavchad? Slavchad was the Mekoshesh. We still don't know, by the way, what he did. We had three choices last week, right? But we don't know which of the three is actually going to be the one that he was executed for, that he did wrong. So who says it's Rabbi Akiva?
Everyone died. Everyone died. It's right.
No, but the pasuk says, can I have a chumash for a minute, Rob?
Yeah, Avinu meis
Right.
something like that.
Ki b'cheto mos, ki b'cheto meis.
He died from his chet.
Okay.
He's not from Korach, but
he says he died from his own chet.
Hey,
So, because everybody died not necessarily from a specific.
so we know. First of all, we know that he seems to have been special. That signaled out that he died from a sin, not that he died because everybody had the same sin. In other words, everybody dies in the midbar. But the fact that he did something uniquely special, that he died on his own behalf. So he didn't die because of the Meraglim, in other words. Okay, let me just see if I find the pasuk here. Where is the Slavchad coming?
I see a Tet Vav here.
Could be.
Tet Vav Lamed Gimel, I don't know.
Okay, here it is. Chav Zayin Pasuk Gimel. Pasuk Gimel. Vatikravno b'no Slavchad ben Chefer ben Gilad ben Machem ben Menashe Mishpachos Menashe ben Yosef and here they are Machla Noah Chal Gomilka v'Tirza. They came by Tamod lefnei Moshe v'lefnei Elazar Akom lefnei Nesim Kol Ida Pesach Al Moed. They came from Moshe and Elazar. Aaron's already passed away, and they said Avinu meis bamidbar v'hu lo ya b'toch v'da nodim al Hashem b'adas Korach. Well, we know he's not a sinner like Korach, so that's really bad because that revolted against you, Moshe. They were swallowed up. They're real baddies. But kivecheto meis uvanim lo hoyilo. He died because of his sin, and he had no sons, and therefore, why should his inheritance be swallowed up? We would like to, we know what to do, and so forth and so on. And then Moshe comes back to them and says, "Cain b'no stavcha davros," and therefore they will inherit the nachla. That's not the way, not the end of the story. It happens in the end of this is Parshas Pinchas. Two parshiyot later in Mantos Maseh, we find that the people of Yosef come to Moshe and say it's not going to be fair because the daughters of Slavchad will get the inheritance, and it's going to be the inheritance from the tribe of Menashe, and we're going to lose it out of our future inheritance. So what happens? The end of the story, they have to marry within the tribe. Okay, so good news and bad news. You're allowed to marry. You're allowed to get the land, but you have to marry within the tribe. Your eligible bachelors are cut down. But the point of it being that what exactly happens with the nachla is not the topic here. The topic is Avinu meis bamidbar v'hu lo ya ki v'cheto meis. Okay, so therefore, what does Rabbi Akiva comes up with this drash? Now you're kind of all scratching your head, say, like, where did he get this from? And more importantly, why are we kind of putting down Slavchad? We could think he may, like, maybe
3-5 girl, wonderful.
Right, saying that he was Mekoshesh, it seemed the one person who singled out for breaking Shabbos kind of puts him like on the FBI roll of the 10 most wanted.
wasn't he? He was held while Moshe went to consult.
Right.
But the interesting thing is,
we don't know his name.
If it was him, the same thing happens with the daughters.
Right.
When they go to Moshe Rabbeinu.
And Moshe says, I don't know.
He says, I don't know. I have to go and ask God.
Right. Yeah. So you see clearly, by the way, Moshe is simply Moshe is simply just a pipe to find out from Hashem what to do. Right. Correct. That's true. Okay.
Both cases.
Both cases, Moshe does not know what to happen, except in the first case he was put in the Mishmah, he was held up. In the second case, the daughters of Slavchad could live until they resolved the issue. Correct. Moshe did not make up things on his own. He simply was the communication device that HaKadosh Baruch Hu communicated to the people. So at any rate, Rabbi Akiva says this is what Slavcha did. So Amalo Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira. So follow this, because this is where the excursus into God to go. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira says to Rabbi Akiva, called him by his first name, the buddies, they're equals. Akiva, ben kach ben kach atala tid l'tein today. You're going to have an accounting about what you just did, that you darshan that Slavchad was the Makoshesh. Because one way or the other, in kidvarecha, if you're really correct, you say Mazel Tov Shkoyach, great to our Torah, but our Torah kistov yatom galeltov. The Torah didn't want to reveal the name, and you kind of gave away. You spilled the beans. You embarrassed him. You kind of publicized what he did wrong. V'imlav, and if you're not right, because you could argue that it's really not Gzera Shaveh, atam motzi lazalot tzadik. You're actually putting a laz, a false this poor reputation about what the tzaddik is. So therefore, I disagree. This was not Slavcha. Slavcha died for something else. Okay, who is the Makoshesh? We don't know. We haven't resolved who the Makoshesh is, and Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira says we're not going to resolve who the Makoshesh is. So the Gemara says, well, how could Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira reject it? Gomar Gzera Shaveh. So didn't Rabbi Akiva seem to say that he had a comparison between he died here and this one died here, this one died there? So he's not spilling the beans. Right? He's not simply making it up. He's just making you aware what the Gzera Shaveh. The Torah tells you what it was. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to make the comparison. And the answer is, you do have to be a rocket scientist, because the Gzera Shaveh, you can't make a Gzera Shaveh by yourself. Ain't Adam done Gzera Shaveh me'atzmo. We have a tradition, and sometimes this is why it's very hard to learn and understand what the drushes of Chazal actually are. Sometimes they seem to be very illogical. It's clear that Chazal have a different way of learning the Torah than we did, understanding the Torah, but even so, sometimes the comparison seems to be like chamishasar, okay, or other kinds of comparisons, and Gzera Shavos and others. So you have to have certain traditions that we believe Chazal had, at least if not in specific Gzera Shavos, about the numbers of Gzera Shavos, and therefore they couldn't simply just randomly choose a Gzera Shavah.
Until what period could they come up with Gzera Shavos?
So
like we talk about Tanoim, Amoraim?
So it looks like at all generations they must have been reflecting upon something. You can come up with a Kal V'chomer, you can come up with logical, but in terms of making Gzera Shavah, comparing one thing to another, I think you can't. I think a Klal Prat Klal, maybe you can. Gzera Shavah is really just making a comparison one thing to another. Right, the Klal Prat Klal, where you have a general rule, a lesser rule, and a general rule. So you say what's in the middle is Ein Baklal, Ein Baprat El Kein Prat. It's similar to what's in the middle. You have Ribu and Miyu. They're large. Some things are more logical, some things are less logical. But Gzera Shavah is one that you can't simply make up, because Ein Adam don't go Gzera Shavah Asmo.
That's what I always understood. You couldn't just.
No, but obviously someone could. I mean,
I'm saying at some
right.
point.
So hold on. So let me respond to that. Let me just do this one more piece. So in other words, let's just three more words, and then we'll take all the questions. So the Gemara says, "Ve'alaha Gomar Gzera Shavah." Didn't he have a Gzera Shavah? So the Gemara answers, "Gzera Shavah lo Gomar." He really didn't have a Gzera Shavah. He kind of looked for a remez, almost as if to say. So the Gemara Tosfos actually points and raises the question. He says, "What does that mean? If Rabbi Akiva did have a Gzera Shavah, then he learned it. If he didn't have a Gzera Shavah, he didn't learn it." So Tosfos, it's a short Tosfos on the top of Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph, right on the top. You look in the third line. V'yomer Rabbeinu Tam. The third line is Tosfos Sheilahem Kabbalah Minyan Gzera Shavah Shebachol Torah. They didn't necessarily have exactly a tradition about every Gzera Shavah. They had a magic number of Gzera Shavas that they had to work with. It's almost like 613 commandments. If you put one in, you got to take one out. So therefore, this was Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira already had his requisite number of Gzera Shavas, so he knew his Gzera Shavah number was correct. He couldn't add another one in. Rabbi Akiva probably didn't have one of Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira's, so he included this. So it's not even clear what they had. Did they know exactly the Gzera Shavas, or did they have certain rules, or did they have numbers? How did they know what it was? But they had some kind of tradition that impacted upon the Gzera Shavah. Yes.
A lot of times they knew the halacha, because they knew it, and they just wanted to find a link in the Torah. A lot of times they knew the halacha, but they wanted to find a link. So maybe the Gzera Shavos are the same thing. They knew the halacha, they just wanted to
sometimes
link it in.
That's usually correct, but that's usually called nasmachta. It's usually called some kind of remez, nasmachta, When it says Gzeir Shav, it seems to give us like this is a basis for it. So,
They had an actual, they had a Kabbalah for over generation, presumably.
I don't know. We don't know what the number was.
Okay, yeah.
So you got to go count up all the Gzeir Shavas in the Tanakh, in the Talmud, and allocate them based upon everybody who says them, and hopefully you come close to what the magic number would have been. I have no clue even where to approach that number. But it means, in other words, it means there was some tradition and there was a certain amount of latitude that they had. So it looks like Rabbi Akiva had this, Rabbi Yehuda ben Meir did not have it. But whatever it means, in other words, it means Rabbi Akiva did have some tradition, Rabbi Yehuda ben Meir did not have some tradition, therefore he rejected it. So at any rate, Tzlavchad is not the Makoshesh. The Makoshesh really ends up being unidentified. So what did Tzlavchad do? Okay? So what are we going to leave it completely mysterious? So the Gemara says, Elamehecha have. So in other words, what sin did actually Tzlavcha do? Can we identify this? Now you say, why would we want to identify it? We don't want to make them bad. So sometimes there are sins that are not as bad as others. It's very difficult for us to say this, but you'll see what the sin is in a moment. So what was the sin? Vayapilo. It's the sin of Vayapilo. In other words, what happens when the Meraglim came back? The term mapilim, by the way, are those who was a term used by the Zionists, mapilim, but they took it from the Torah here. Let me tell you the story. You know the story. When the Meraglim came back and they came out with a negative response, and the people said, "We can't go." And Kadosh Baruch Hu said, "You can't go. This is Yom Lashana, Tesuat Avonotechem, and Pigvechem Atem. You'll die in the wilderness." And the people said, when they heard this is terrible. The next morning there was a group that got up by Apila Lalo Sahara. They said, we're going to go up and take the land. And Moshe said, don't go up. And what happened? They went up, and of course they were terribly routed and defeated. These were the Mapilim. This was the group who had great intentions, except they did things on their own without following the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had put the kibosh on it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you cannot go. And they decided they would do it, despite the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not give them permission. Here it goes. Here we go. So the people died. The people vayitablu amio. They cried because they couldn't go in. Vayashkima baboker perik yudalid in Bamidbar, the end, the middle of Parsha Shlach. Vayalu al Rosh Ha'lemar. We went to the top of the mountain. Hineno v'yalinu el hamakom asher amar Hashem ki chatanu. We sinned, so we're going in. We want to change the sin. We want to undo it. Vayoma Moshe lama zatam ovrim et pi Hashem v'hi lo titzlach. Hashem said, don't go. Al talu ken Hashem b'kirvechem. Don't go up. God is not with you. V'lo tinag v'lufnei avechem. And don't go up because you shouldn't fall down before your enemies. Amalek v'aknani sham lefnechem nefaltem b'charev kal ken shaftam echrei Hashem v'lo yeh Hashem imachem. You turned from Hashem, so Hashem is not with you. Nonetheless, what happened in Pasuk Mem Daled? Vayapilu lalo sahar. They defiantly ascended the mountaintop. Varom bris Hashem Moshe laMoshe meker v'machaneh. What happened? Vayer Amaleki v'aknani, who lived in the Harahu, vayakum vayaksum arachama. They struck them, and vayaksum, as they made them, they chopped them up, they pounded them into dust until they got back to pushed them back to Charmah. Okay, and that's the end of the story of the Meraglim. So these were the Mapilim. So what do we say? What did Tzlavcha do? He was part of these Mapilim. So why would that be such a good thing to identify him at?
Well, it shows that he wanted to go up there. It's his love of the land.
His love of the land. You see that you can love the land and do sins and still be not such a bad guy.
Yeah.
It's a great mashal. Rashi says on the second line on the top of the page, Vayapilo lalos shelo hirshia kol kach ki chilo Shabbos. Chilo Shabbos, which is what the Makoshesh did, was worse than actually trying to rise up, because there was a nationalistic fervor, there was a positive idea. The only thing that was missing is HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, don't do this today. You should have done it yesterday. You missed the opportunity. But the actual act itself was not such a bad idea. And plus, to a certain extent, he was part of a group. Now, I know it seems to be his own sins. He was part of a smaller group. Okay?
So how do the Zionists use the word? Is it a term of praise or...
What were the Mapilim? The Mapilim were those who they beached them?
They were the ones who snuck in over like the British and all those things. That's what the Mapilim... I always have in the word failed to drop into the beach. Like they dropped on.
So were these the people who they kind of smuggled? They beached the boats onto the beach.
Those are the Mapilim, like in the Netanya, etc. Those are.
We're all our Zionists. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. This Sunday is Yom Yerushalayim.
Exactly.
And you guys even know what the word Mapilim is. Oh my goodness.
The guys dropped off at the shore. I think I'm pretty sure.
Oh my goodness, this is even so bad. This is not even coming up on the Google search.
anti-Zion say today.
Well, it's coming up. I don't know. People have come up with products back then called mapilim. The mapilim. I don't know. The mapilim.
If you put in I'm appealing to Israel.
I mean, he's more difficult. I probably typed in Hebrew. Okay, I don't know. You guys are going to have to look it up later and let me know. Okay? Okay. So I believe them.
Immigrated illegally to Palestine during the British control.
What did it say?
They were the ones who came by boat?
Yeah.
Well, they came over the mountains. Some of them...
By boat.
Legally, get snuck in.
They may have snuck in various ways. Either they came in illegal boats or they came in over the mountains through Jordan, through Syria.
Yeah.
Okay.
The British had the mandate of the 20s, right?
Right, so the mapilim was, in other words, the term was taken from someone who tries to go in against the accepted norm of what is accepted or not. So that's where they took the term from. Oh my goodness, back in the day when Hebrew actually was Hebrew. Vayapilu. Kayotze b'davar tomer. So in other words, we have a similar kind of discussion about giving away the store or revealing things that were not necessarily revealed by the Torah, and a discussion that goes in between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yehuda Beseira in a completely unrelated topic. So we're leaving now completely Shabbos. At least this was connected to Shabbos when we got into it about the Makoshish and Slavchad, and going completely off topic, which is as follows. Kiyotzi b'davar tomer, vayicharaf Hashem bam vayelach. This is when Miriam speaks against Moshe, Alisha kushit asher lakach. And it says that Vayicharaf Hashem bam vayelech, and Hashem got angry with Aaron and Moshe, got angry with Aaron and Miriam, who was speaking against Moshe. Malamed she'af Aaron nitztareya. So he says the drash here, Vayicharaf Hashem bam, which of course literally means the anger of Hashem was against them. Vayin vayelach, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu withdrew from the tent. And what happened when HaKadosh Baruch Hu withdrew from the tent? So Miriam was mitzoras. So the pasuk though says Vayicharaf Hashem bam on them. So it was angry with both of them. So Malamed she'af Aaron nitztareya. So comes Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says not only was Miriam stricken with leprosy because of speaking lashon hara about Moshe's one against his wife, but even Aaron as well. The Torah does not say that.
No, it doesn't.
Right? The Torah simply says Vayicharaf Hashem bam vayelech. And what happens? V'halnon tzarmei ha'ol v'hinei Miriam mitzoras kashalem. And Vayifan Aaron on Miriam v'hinei mitzoras. Aaron looked at Miriam and she was mitzoras. It's clear from the psukim it's only Miriam. Says Rabbi Kiva, nope, Aaron also got punished. So again, same conversation. You're going to give a judgment for this. If, like your words, if you're really true, then the Torah didn't say it. The Torah said Miriam got mitzoras, not Aaron. And you're revealing it. And what must you say? That if you're false, then you're really telling a calumny against the tzaddik of Aaron. So one way or the other, you're doing something bad. So what does it mean then that HaKadosh Baruch Hu got angry with them? V'yelo ksiv bam, vayicharaf Hashem bam, he got angry. So the answer is, says Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, hahu ben azifah b'alma. He got angry at both of them. But only Miriam was punished, but Aaron was not punished. So it's not clear why only one was punished.
That's it. There are women today who wonder. Since it's clear that they were all.
Yeah, not clear. Not clear.
So the Torah said God, Hashem was angry with both of them.
I don't know. Okay? I don't know. It looks like they're both equal participants. Maybe Aaron had more schusim, maybe Miriam had less, I don't know. So it's only Nazif Bialma. So the Gemara says, Tanya command the Amar af Aaron nitztareya. There's a brisa that seems to support, they see this concept that Rabbi Kiva said that Aaron also got tzaras. Tichsiv, vayifen Aaron Miriam v'hinei mitzaras. That Aaron looked at Miriam, Aaron turned to Miriam, and he saw that she was mitzaras. What do you mean he turned to Miriam? So some pshat is he looked up at Miriam and she was mitzaras. But what says the brisa? Tanish upon mitzarato. He turned from his tzaras and looked and saw also Miriam had the said also same tzaras. You know a story about two men come down a chimney.
Right.
One gets soot and one doesn't get soot on them. Which one washes their face? Okay, right. So it's one of these Talmudic sugyas. So the person, of course, would wash his face. The one that got soot on his face. He doesn't know he's got soot on his face. Only the one who's got the clean face, who looks at the guy with the dirty face, he thinks he has soot on his face. The guy who's got the dirty face looks at the clean face. He doesn't know he's got soot on his face, etc., etc., etc. Okay. At any rate, so therefore, this brisa seems to support Rabbi Kiva's tradition, that even Aaron was punished with the tzaras, except the Torah didn't want to reveal it directly, but put in a way that we can actually learn about it indirectly from it.
It does raise a question, of course, of why Moshe just prayed for Miriam to get better and he didn't care about his brother.
Correct.
That's a separate issue.
Right. Or maybe you'd have to say that Aaron was with tzaras, and then Aaron's tzaras went away by itself.
Could be.
And Miriam remained with tzaras. It's not clear. I mean, it's clear pshat of the parsha there at the end of Baloscha is that only Miriam got the tzaras. But you see a Brisa and you see Rabbi Kiva, and they're both, both a Brisa and both Rabbi Kiva.
Tzaras only once the Kohen says this is tzaras.
So that is the tzaras of Tumah that we normally happen. Correct. Well, but there are cases where there's miraculous tzaras, which is clear it's tzaras.
Can a Kohen diagnose himself?
Well, does who diagnosed Miriam here?
Aaron.
Not necessarily. If Hashem diagnoses Miriam, it looks like.
No, maybe. Yeah, it doesn't.
Well, I guess so. Maybe. Vayomer Aaron al Moshe bi Adoni al not tashes lena chatas asher novan vasher chatano al not hi kames asher b'tzisol remechem mimo vayechel schachar b'saro. Let her not be like a dead corpse, like one who leaves the mother's womb with half his flesh having been consumed. Vatitzak Moshe Hashem lemor kel no rafon Allah. Okay, and Hashem says she'll be outside the camp 7 days, and then she'll come back, and then so forth and so on. You're right. I guess it looks like Aaron is the one who diagnoses it. I always understood it that Hashem diagnosed it. It was such a clear sign from HaKadosh Baruch Hu because they're in communication with Hashem that Aaron's job is really simply just to pray on her behalf.
But it's Moshe who ended up.
Aaron asked Moshe to be intercede, and Moshe davens to Hashem. But not that Aaron is the one diagnosing it. Aaron is simply saying, Moshe, can't you do something about this?
Yeah, but that's good, because the Kohen is the one who's supposed. It's not tzaras till the Kohen says it's tzaras, right?
Okay, yes, okay.
I like that.
So there is another case of tzaras, which Gemara is going to talk about in the next couple lines, which also comes up in the Bible. Well, that's when Moshe is at the burning bush, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives signs to Moshe, right? One of which is he put your hand in and he takes it out as tzaras. He puts back in and shava kivsara. So that is, and we'll see in the Gemara says it very clearly, that was meant as a punishment for Moshe, who spoke Lashon Hara, that the Jewish people wouldn't listen to me. They did listen to him initially. So you see that, and this is one of the Gemaras that actually is quoted all around. So there was no a Kohen. There wasn't even a defined tzaras law yet. This is before Matan Torah. So I guess somehow when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give a punishment, this is clear that what the punishment is. The case of the Kohen is really where you're dealing where you don't have communication with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have tzaras on the body, tzaras on the house, and so forth. By the way, we've often pointed out tzaras is not necessarily leprosy. Tzaras is what we probably call a very serious, severe psoriasis. There's different kinds of psoriasis today, some of which can remain a long time.
Psoriasis?
Yes, sure. So it's like a skin disease.
Yeah.
And there's in many cases there.
I never heard that before.
Well, if you have, it's surely the same root.
Well, what's the
The same tzaras is the word psoriasis.
Yeah, but that could have
right?
been
No one knows this. Tzaras and psoriasis is the same word.
Yeah, I got you. But that could have been
right. Yovel. What's the Yovel year in English? Jubilee. Jubilee and Yovel is the same word. So don't tell me that's what Yovel means. Yovel means something else. Yovel either means a shofar, or according to Ramban, Yovel is a term that refers to people coming back to their ancestral lands, letting the slaves go free. It's about movement. The word Yovel and Jubilee is the same root. Azov and Hyssop is the same word. So in other words, the word tzaras is the word psoriasis. It's not necessarily what we know as leprosy.
They could have just.
I think all the elite,
could have been a religious.
all the medical things shows that none of the symptoms are leprosy.
Correct. The only commonality that we know between tzaras and leprosy is there were leper colonies where they were shunned from society. Right, so and that only appears with tzaras.
I hear what you're saying. I've just never heard it before.
No problem.
Okay. I don't know.
Which part?
That's why you come here.
That's why I come here.
Look up psoriasis and Google psoriasis and look at the images. Don't look at what it says and tells you what it is. There's some very terrible types of psoriasis. Not everybody has them. They're very rare. But look at all these. There's scaly psoriasis. There's guttate psoriasis. It comes and comes and comes. It's not about having eczema on your skin. That's very minor.
No. But I always thought the building, like the building got psoriasis too.
That's a different type of psoriasis, correct? But
I
Sarasu
thought it was a
does.
spiritual thing, not a physical thing. At one quick.
The building doesn't have leprosy.
Right.
Hansen
Sure.
Doesn't have psoriasis either.
Correct.
What I mean is,
Yeah.
you can't. It's a spiritual kind of thing. It's
see
not.
what you're saying.
It's not a medical.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
You're right.
That's
It's
why.
okay. You're right. We got off topic, and you're correct. You're right. You're right. You're right. And you're right. And we're going to go back to the Gemara. Okay.
What did he say?
So this is about our own itself. Amar Rish Lakish. Now this goes to once again getting further off topic, or homiletically getting off topic. Amar Rish Lakish. Hachoshit b'ksherim loke b'gufo. A person who's choshit b'ksherim gets punished on his body, and of course this is the connection to what happens to Miriam. Right? She spoke about Moshe. Aladotu isha kushit asher lakach. Either simple pshat is he spoke that Moshe took a non-Jewish wife. The real pshat is Moshe was not living with Zipporah. She was the kushit isha kushit. It doesn't mean a black person. It means she was dark and swarthy, and he didn't live together with her. And what kind of life would she had? She really was speaking on behalf of Port Zipporah, that she wasn't intimate with her husband.
Sure.
So at any rate, but you see, so that's how the connection is. And now we're going to bring a further case, the chsiv, as it says, "Hachoshim kshem lo kebegufa," the chsiv v'hein lo yaminu li. This is the case of Moshe the burning bush. Moshe says, they will not listen to me, and they'll say, "Lo nirah lecha Hashem, God did not appear to you." V'galye kame kuchibricha demehimni Yisrael, and it was known to HaKadosh Baruch Hu before God, before the Almighty, that the Jewish people would believe him. So Amar lo, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe, Hein ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim. They are believers, the son of believers. They will believe you, and they're the descendants of Aaron. It says v'hemin b'Hashem. Not Aaron, Avraham. Avraham believed in HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'yeshveh lo tzedakah. V'yata ein sof chalal ha'amin. However, you who think the Jewish people will not believe you, you won't believe. What is it? Hey, ma'aminim d'chsiv vayamein ham. When Moshe came back and told them about Hashem appeared to him at the burning bush, they believed him. Vayamein ham. They're b'nei ma'aminim. They're the children of the descendants of ma'aminim, because the Avram says v'yamin b'Hashem v'yeshveh lo tzedakah. Aval atah, you Moshe, says God to Moshe the bush, ein sof chol ha'amin. You in the end will not believe. Shenemar. Yan lo aman to be lahak dishein l'lenei b'nei Yisrael lochein lo t'vi asam al aretz asher lohem. This is when Moshe actually smites the rock in Bamidbar Parak Chaf, and he says, because you didn't believe me, therefore you won't take the Jewish people in. And how do you know that Moshe Rabbeinu would?
Wasn't there a midrash that was explaining it more, that he spoke to the rock, but in the end, when he wasn't getting response, he eventually did. Yep.
There are all kinds of ways to mitigate what Moshe did, but whatever it was, he didn't do exactly correctly, right? Okay. Rambam writes that actually Moshe lost his equilibrium. Rambam writes fascinatingly, I think in shemoneh-esrei. He says that you have to walk on the shvil ha'emtzoi, the middle road. Right, you can't have too much of gaiva, you can't have too much humility, too much anger, and too much complacence. So therefore, Moshe, when he at the hitting at the rock, what happened? He says, shemoneh-esrei. He called the people rebels. Definitely. The moment he called them rebels, that went over the line. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you've lost it, you can't be the leader anymore. You fell off the shvil ha'emtzoi. So whatever the reason is, it's still a part of having trust in the people. He didn't do things exactly the way they are, but you're right, Tuvi, correcting exactly what may have been some of the interpretations of the Medrash. So, Yano Mantabilak Dishenis and Mimail Dalaka, how do you know that Moshe was actually punished as Vayomar Shem Lo Od Haveno Yodcha B'Chekecha? Kadosh Baruch Hu told him to put his hand back in his pocket or back into his bosom, and he took it out and was cured. So you see that therefore this was some kind of punishment, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu was able to do it, and of course able to undo it itself. So this was the divine judgment from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished him because of speaking, not trusting in the Jewish people, or speaking against the Jewish people, or as Rish Lakish says, Chosheh b'ksherim. Okay, Amar Rava Vitem Rav Yossi Breb Chanina. Midat, this is continuing the story of Moshe at the burning bush. Midat tova mamaheres lavomi midas puranios. A good thing, a good reward comes quicker to come than a midas puranios, than the same thing that happens, which is a punishment. Why? Because it says the ilu b'midas puranius. What happened with Moshe when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to punish him? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "Put your hand inside your bosom." Vayotziyah, he took it out. V'nei yado mitzuras kashelag, and his hand became leprosy like snow. So he had to take his hand out, and behold, when he took his hand out, the hand turned leprosy. That's how they read it. So first Vayotziyah. V'hinei yado, and then the yado became a tzoras. It became tzoras in the present. V'ilo b'mida tova, when it turns back, when the reward comes, or the good part comes, see if it says vayos yom mecheka, he put his hand back in and took it out. V'hinei shava. Shava is lashon avar. Shava is read shava. It already returned kibsaro. Mecheko hu the shava kibsaro. Already when it's inside his bosom, it returned back to his hand, back to his flesh. So the difference between avar and atid is shava versus shava. Right? So shava is present, shava is avar. So the way we understand the pasuk, the way we read it is vinei yodo shava. It already had returned back to its flesh. It already returned back to its flesh before he took it out in lashon avar. This just finishes off this little shtickle here. That when Moshe came back to Bnei Yisrael and he takes Aaron, they go to Paro. So just kind of wrap up with a positive, upbeat kind of thing. I think the Gemara doesn't want to really end up with Puranios. So it says, the staff of Aaron swallowed the staffs of the Egyptians. Some Rav Elazar nes besoch nes. You've heard this, I think, probably from Rashi says it, that after the snakes of Paro's necromancers turned back into staffs, Aaron's staff, which turned back to a staff, already swallowed the staffs. Not that the snake swallowed the snake and then turned back into a staff. The staff swallowed the staffs. Did that make sense? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
So it's nes b'toch nes. So there was a double miracle, not just that it was able to one snake swallow two snakes, or one tanin swallow two taninim, but rather vayivla matei Aaronis matosam. The staff of Aaron swallowed their staffs. Already they had returned back to becoming staffs. Yes?
The Chumash, it says what? The Chumash, it says...
That's exactly a quote from the Chumash.
Okay.
Probably they threw down on
Right, this is the first time they go to Paro.
No, I just don't remember that song. Okay, I'll look it up. Okay.
It says, Moshe comes back from the burning bush in chapter 4. Moshe comes to Paro. Where's this? Is Parak Zion? Sorry, John. Parak Zion, Pasuk. Okay. Vayom Moshe Valaron. Right, this is the middle of Parshas Vayera. So Vayom Moshe Valaron Lemor Kidaber Lechem Paro Tnu Lechem Mofes. When Paro will say to you, do a wonder. V'Amartu Aaron Kach Es Matzcha V'Ashlech Lefnei Paro Yehi L'Tanin. Throw down your staff and throw it in Pharaoh. It's going to become a tanin. Tanin is interchanged between reptile, correct, and snake. Vayvo Moshe v'Aaron al Paro v'Yasu Kain kasher tzivu Hashem v'Yashlech Aaron es Mateo Lefnei Paro v'Lefnei Avoda v'Yehi L'Tanin v'Yikro Gam Paro l'Chachamim v'Lachmachashvim v'Yasu Gam Heim v'Chartamei B'Mitzrayim v'Latiam Kain v'Yashlechu Ish Mateo v'Yu L'Taninim. So you've got these tanin, the tanin of Aaron, the tanin of Paro. Vayavla matei Aaronis matosam.
Okay.
The staff, Aaron's staff, swallowed their staffs. Okay. All right. Now,
I see.
Okay. Now we're going to get back to learning real Talmud. Okay.
Back to Shabbos.
Back to Shabbos.
Fake Talmud.
Not fake Talmud. This was a Gadata. Okay. Let's go back and take a look at the Mishnah. Okay. Let's go back in the Mishnah Tzadi Vav Mid Aleph. Hazorek Mishus Hayachid L'Shus Harabim Mishus Harabim L'Shus Hayachid Chayav. Everybody says that if you throw from Rishus Hayachid to Rishus Harabim or throw from Rishus Harabim to Rishus Hayachid, you're Chayav. That's a no-brainer. If I'm inside and I throw outside, and if I'm outside and I throw inside, I'm going to be Chayav for Zorek, which is a form or a tolda of Hotzah or Achnasa, correct? However, Rishus Hayachid Rishus Hayachid Rishus Harabim B'Emtza. If I throw from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid, right, and there's a Rishus HaRabim in the middle, Rabbi Kiva Mechayev and Rachachamim Potrim. Rabbi Kiva says Chayev, and Rachachamim say Potrim. Okay, that's as far as we're going to go, because otherwise we'll go too far, we'll get confused. It says Machlokas Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim, but if I'm in Rishus HaYachid, and I throw to another Rishus HaYachid, but I'm throwing it through a Rishus HaRabim. So really, from one Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid, it should not be Asam in Torah. If it's not, if they're owned by two different people, so I need to have an Eruv to connect the two. I need to share the loaf of bread together. But even if I don't, I'm not Chayav min Torah. Right? That's simply a rabbinical extension to say to unite two people. But if I have in the middle, I throw from my Rishus HaYachid to your Rishus HaYachid, and there's a Rishus HaRabim in the middle, that's the machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and between the Chachamim. Now, why would it be chayav? So the Gemara is going to have a discussion about this. So the question really is, how high did I throw it, and how high didn't I throw it? Right. So this is the discussion. So as we pointed out last time, that when it comes to Rishus HaRabim, when it comes to Rishus HaYachid goes all the way up to the sky. Rishus HaRabim only goes up to 10 tfachim, not 10 amos, 10 tfachim, which is 10 tfachim. We said is about 40 inches off the ground. 40 inches off the ground. You tell me what that is. That's a meter, a little more than a meter. How much is a meter? 39 inches.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a meter off the ground. So if I'm carrying something, and I'm carrying it in Rishus HaRabim higher than 10 tfachim, I am chayav. Okay, so let's say I decide I want to carry the book, and I'm going to be higher than, I'm standing up, and this is clearly higher than 10 tfachim, and I carry it, or I carry a ball, I'm going to be chayiv, and that's going to be based upon the fact that we have the Bnei Kahas who carried the boards for the crushim, and they loaded them on the wagons. We're going to have a whole discussion in the Gemara about what the wagons were, but the wagons were more than 10 tfachim off the ground.
Yet in spite of that.
And the wagons themselves were Rishus HaYachid, and they had to carry from one wagon to another wagon, and they were carrying from there from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid over Rishus HaRabim. So if I'm carrying the actual object, I'm carrying in a Rishus HaRabim or through Rishus HaRabim, and I'm walking with it, I'm going to be chayiv based upon the template of the Leviim who were loading up the wagons. What if I didn't carry it myself? I was zorek it. So that's the discussion. Do we say zorek, throwing an object is like carrying, or do we say throwing an object is not like carrying? That's the real. Now there's a machlokas Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. So what is the machloket really about between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim? So the Gemara is it's a little bit complicated, but it's not really overly complicated. So the Gemara says, Rishus HaYachid. Let's go back to our Gemara in Tzadi Zayin and Aleph. We all got it? 2 dots? Yes?
Yep.
What's out there? Okay. So Boy Rabba. So Rabba asked the question. Lamata me'asara pligi. The machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim about whether you're going to be chayav throwing from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid through a Rishus HaRabim is, do we say it's below 10 tfachim? Ubaha pligi. And here's what the machlokas is between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. The Mar Savar, that according to Rabbi Akiva, we say Amrin Kluta Kamashahun Chadami, or Kluta Kamishahun Chadami, depending on how you read the Gemara. Now, Kluta means as follows. Do I say when I throw across Rishus HaRabim that I'm really considering this in very slow motion, or almost like stopgap taking a picture? It's actually in Rishus HaRabim. Do I say that it really was absorbed into Rishus HaRabim? And I say that really it's like it's lying in the Rishus HaRabim? Or then it's picked up from the Rishus HaRabim and gone out to the Rishus HaYachid? Or do I not say that? That's the concept of Kluta K'mishun. I have a hand that I want to give to you before we leave, just to try and make sense of it a little more in our minds.
Well, maybe from the thing of the Shoresh, Liklot.
It's absorbed.
Really
to be absorbed.
It's like to be collected by the Rishut HaRabim in some sense, right? I'm just wondering whether Kluta is connected with the word Liklot, which to me would be like, yeah.
Klita is being absorption.
Klita, yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're saying? So it's
absorbed.
That's
what I'm saying. Yeah, klita, exactly.
So in other words, it's absorbed. In other words, it's absorbed. Is it below 10 tfachim? So it's absorbed into the airspace of Rishus HaRabim. Mm-hmm. So it's absorbed into the airspace of Rishus HaRabim, even though it's moving. Do we say that we pretend? I don't want to say pretend because that would be incorrect. We treat it as if it has been absorbed and is standing in Rishus HaRabim. Because if I were to throw from Rishus HaYachid into Rishus HaRabim, then pick it up from Rishus HaRabim and throw it to Rishus HaYachid, I'd be chayiv. I mean, be chayiv too. Okay, that's the question. So, do I say the machlokas of Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim is below 10 tfachim, which is clearly the airspace of Rishus HaRabim, and the machlokas will be about the rule Kluta K'mashuhuncha, that according to Rabbi Akiva, I say Kluta K'mishuhuncha, and according to Marsav and the Chachamim say Lo Amin and Kluta K'mishuhuncha. We don't use this rule of Kluta K'mishuhuncha. I know it sounds strange, but it's a rule that comes up periodically in this parak. Aval Lamala Me'asar Damasar Divrei Kol Pater. But if it would be above, I threw above 10 tfachim, then everybody would say that I'm potter, because even if it's absorbed above 10 tfachim, it's not absorbed into Rishus HaRabim, it's absorbed into Makom P'tur. And what would I have to say? V'lo yafinan zorik mimoshit. Then I'd have to assume to make this work, I'm not going to compare zorik to carrying. Moshit is passing or carrying along. Either passing or carrying along from one place to another. Because when the Leviim carried the boards, and they were on the wagons, they were higher than Yud Tfachim. So carrying something in a Rishus Harabim above 10 Tfachim, because on my feet is planted in below the 10 Tfachim, is going to be considered that I'm still within 10 Tfachim. So even if the object is above, and I'm above it, it's still going to be considered Chayav. So do we say the machloket between Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim is below Asar Tfachim, and the machloket is about Kluta K'mishuncha, or Dilma, or else, or not, or possibly it's different. Maybe the machloket, the Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim is above Yud Tfachim. I threw it above Yud Tfachim, which is where you normally would expect that you're going to be throwing things, right? You're going to throw, when you throw a ball today, or you throw the newspaper, or you throw whatever you throw, it's usually above 10 Tfachim, unless you throw underhand. So they're arguing about above 10 Tfachim, but Bahal Pligi, and here's the machloket. The Mar Savar Yalfinon Zorik Mimoshit, that the Rabbi Kiva will say if Moshit, if when the Leviim were carrying above Yud Tfachim, they're chayev for carrying that's the template of carrying above Yud Tfachim being chayev. So throwing as well, even if I haven't moved, I'm going to be chayev above Yud Tfachim. Because I compare Zorek to Moshit, or Mar Savar lo yafin on Zorek mi Moshit. And the Chachamim will say, no, Zorek is Zorek and Moshit is Moshit. I can't carry something, I can't pass something above Yud Tfachim. That's if I'm passing it. If I'm moving, I'm passing it along from one person to another, I'm carrying it myself. But Zorek, where it's flying in the air, would be a different rule, and therefore above Yud Tfachim I'm potter. Aval lamata, but below Yud Tfachim, what would be the halacha? Lamata miyud divrei kol chayav. But below Yud Tfachim, I would say I'm chayav. Why my timer? Kluto k'mishun chadami. Because it looks like we would all say, both opinions would say, kluto k'mishun chadami. That everybody would agree that kluto k'mishun chadami.
Mine has a question mark, I must say, right after kluto k'ma.
That's the question. That's the question. That's the end of the question.
Yeah, should everybody say? Would everybody say, right? That lamata?
In other words, which of the two choices would you say the machlokas is? Mm-hmm. Is the machlokas really a below Yud Tfachim, and they're arguing about klutik mishuncha, right, but above Yud Tfachim everybody would say that you're potter? Or is the machloket above Yud Tfachim? Are we comparing Zorek and Moshit? But below Yud Tfachim everybody would say you're chayav. Right. Everybody is Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim. Mm-hmm. So that's the question. Okay? And the Gemara is going to spend some time actually going back for to try to understand it. Before we do that, maybe let's see. What should I give you the handout first, or do the answer first? Let's do the handout first, because otherwise you may not get to the full answer. Okay, there we go. I hope there's enough copies. I had a little trouble with the printer. One for you. Okay, here we go. Should be enough this way. It's the right side of the page. I think it came out on all the copies. I think you're here, Archie. Okay, the right side of the page where it says insight. The right side of the page where it says insight. Insight. Okay. Okay. So the concept of kluta. Rabbi Kiva inquires to determine the nature of the dispute between Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim. Rabbah inquires to determine the nature of the dispute between Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim. First, Rabbah suggests the case may be where the item was thrown across a public thoroughfare, remaining below 10 tefachim, off the ground for the entire time. Rabbi Kiva holds the person throwing is liable because we use the concept of kluta k'mishuncha. This means that as the item flies through the airspace, we consider the state of being absorbed in the airspace as if placed on the ground below it. Consequently, Rabbi Kiva considers if it has a proper placement, hanacha and ischayev. Chachamim disagree and hold that the item flying is not considered rest. The one throwing is therefore exempt. Okay, so there are two approaches to understanding how kluta really works. What does this mean? Being absorbed in the airspace is considered sitting. How do you understand it? So this is important we understand what this means. Some say that although the object is flying through the air, we consider it stationary in the air. The item is completely surrounded by the Rishus Harabim and is therefore at rest in the domain. So notice it's in the air and staying in the air and stopped in the air itself. Others want to say that when the item is flying through the air, we consider as if it's resting on the ground, and that's what the Kilas Yaakov say. Even according to Rabbah, once the object is above 10 tefachim, all agree we cannot apply the concept of kluta. According to the first approach, it's relatively simple because even if we look at the object, it's as if it's frozen in space. The area above 10 tefachim is no longer Rishus Harabim. It's a makam b'tur, and the one throwing the item is exempt. According to the second approach, I'm not sure if this really explains it well for us, but let's see how far it goes. According to the second approach, where we consider the object connected to the ground, why can we not say the same thing even if the object is flying at the height above 10 tefachim? So Sfas Emes explains that because the area below this object is composed of two domains. I want to read that again. According to the second approach, excuse me, I'm going to just back up and make sure I understand it, if I make sure you understand it. Okay, according to the second approach, where we consider the object connected to the ground, why can we not say the same thing even if the object is flying at the height above 10 tefachim? Why do we say if the object is above 10 tefachim, it's an amalkam tur? Why don't we say kluta k'mishuncha? Why don't we say if the object, if kluta k'mishuncha means it's on the ground? When it's below 10 tefachim, why can't we say the same thing if it's above 10 tefachim? Just drop it down. Pretend to drop down. Sfas Emes explains that because the area below this object is composed of two domains, a malkam b'tur above 10 tefachim and a reshus harabim below 10 tefachim, we no longer look at it as if it's connected to the ground. Another approach is that what we say it's therefore you can't connect it to the ground when you got two reshuyot below it. Another approach is that we say it's connected, considers if it's connected to the ground, doesn't mean it's as off the ground, it's that it is if it is on the ground that is below it. Rather, we say that it's stretched and extended from where it is all the way to the ground. Accordingly, the object, even if it's connected to the ground, is still partially situated in the Malkam B'Tur. It's not really on the ground is like moving up to it. And that's why it's exempt even according to Rabbi Akiva. I'm not sure, it doesn't really give us a really good example. It doesn't really explain it to us. It would have explained it a little better when I read it. Let me see if I have another explanation here. I don't really have it, no. I don't have a good answer. Nope, I don't have a better answer. Okay, I'm sorry. I guess you have to accept that it's really considered as if it's flying in the air and stops in its place, that we consider we drop it down. I guess that's probably the way you'd have to make sense of it in terms of trying to understand this halachic fiction, that as it's flying through, because it's simply going through Reshut Rabim, do we consider as if it's now considered as if it's stopped in Reshut Rabim as it's continuing to go? Okay. Don't really have a better explanation to make it work for us, except to say that's simply how the Gemara seems to make it accept it to be. Okay? Sorry, I don't have anything better. I thought I had a better interpretation for you. Okay, let's go back to our Gemara. Let's try to get in the answer here, at least the first answer. So the machloket, the question really is between the two opinions. Is the machloket Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim above or below 10 tefachim or above 10 tefachim? If it's below 10 tefachim, the machloket is about kluta k'mishuncha. If it's above 10 tefachim, the machloket is really about whether we compare Zoreg and Moshid. So Amar Rabbi Yosef. So Rabbi Yosef says the following answer. So in other words, Rabbah raised the question. He doesn't have an answer. So Rav Yosef, who often appears in connection with Rabbah, says that Rav Chisda had the question. Upashton lele Rav Hamnuna meha. And Rav Hamnuna answered the same question to Rav Chisda when Rav Chisda asked this question. And he answered it from the following kind of statement, the following brisa, meha. And here's what it says. It says as following, and it's not clear what's going on. You got to stay with the Gemara for a couple of lines, and I think we can do it in 6 minutes. The brisa says as follows: Mirshus hayachid l'rshus hayachid v'over b'rshus Rabbi Matzma. Something goes from Rshus hayachid to Rshus hayachid and travels through Rshus Rabim. Now, how is it going? It doesn't say. So it doesn't say. First of all, it doesn't say. What are the choices?
Either throwing or carrying it.
Throwing or carrying it, passing it along or throwing it or so forth. Not clear. So, but something goes from Reshus Yachid to Reshus Yachid, and there's a Reshus Rav in the middle. We don't know how it's going. Rabbi Akiva says Mechayev and Chachamim saying Potter. So we don't know exactly what this is, but this looks to be the similar kind of thing that our Mishnah says. Yeah. Except it's not clear. It's not clear what's going on. So the Gemara says, now here's what we can learn one thing about where it is though. Midakamar b'Reshus Rabim, seeing it says b'Reshus Rabim Atzma, that it's going from Reshus Yachid to Reshus Yachid, and it's going through the actual Reshus Rabim. So where is this case talking about? Pshita lamata me'asara pligi. We see the machlokas Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim is below. The fact that it calls it in a Reshus Harabim itself, it's a legal, 100% bona fide Reshus Harabim, means it's 10 tefachim and below. That's the Gemara's deal. So it must be the machlokas Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim, whatever this price is saying, is below Yud tefachim. Ubamai is below.
Everybody agrees that
It's
this
below.
went into the...
Below, everyone agrees it's Rishus Harabim.
Right.
Yes, but the question, if you go from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid, and the Rishus HaRabim is in the middle, that's Machloket Rabbi Kiva. So the fact that this brisa calls it Rishut HaRabim Atzma, our Mishnah only said Rishus HaYachid, it says Rishut HaYachid, with Rishut HaRabim B'emtza. It doesn't say it goes through, it says Rishut HaRabim is in the middle. So I don't know really where it traveled. If I read our Mishnah, I got a Rishut HaYachid, in the middle between the Rishut HaYachid is Rishut HaRabim. This one says it's going from Rishut HaYachid to Rishut HaYachid. V'over b'Rishut HaRabim atzma. It travels in the Rishut HaRabim itself. So that's more explicit that it's traveling. How it's traveling, we don't know yet. But it's traveling in the actual bona fide Rishut HaRabim. Whereas our Mishnah says it goes from Rishut HaYachid to Rishut HaYachid, and in the middle between the Rishut Yot is Rishut HaRabim.
It's funny they use these two, the Atzma and the Emtza.
Because it wants to make very clear that it's a real live Rishut HaRabim. A real 100% bona fide.
But the words resemble each other.
Yes, correct, yes. Yeah.
You think it's a miss?
No, it's like not an alliteration, but
it doesn't even say bill.
It's going out of its way, is it?
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
Well, that's the nusach at least we have in front of us. V'over b'Rishut HaRabim atzma. Okay, but that's the difference between the Braita that we're quoting here, Rav Hamnun is quoting, to what our Mishnah is. Rabbi Kiva says Chayav Nechams Ipadas. So we know, therefore, it has to be Lamata Me'asara Pligi. That's the Machlok of Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim. Uvamai, and what's going on? What is the actual transfer process? What is the malacha? What is the activity? Ilema b'ma'avir, if you say that you're passing along, lamata me'asara hud mechayev, lamala me'yud lo mechayev, you mean to say that it's only where it goes below 10 you're going to be chayev, and above 10 you're not chayev, and that's really true. Could you suggest that this price is telling us that you're only going to be chayev if it's below 10 tfachim?
Right, but ma'avir over isn't.
But above you're not. V'yamar Rabbi Eliezer, hamotzi masui lamala me'asara chayav. If you take out, you carry out an object, what do I say? A burden, thank you. A burden above 10 tfachim chayav. Why? Shekain masa b'nei kos. The b'nei kos carried these things out above 10. So b'nei kos were not only on the wagons, b'nei kos carried things. B'nei kos were the actual Leviim who carried the aron. They carried the aron, they carried the menorah. They carried it on their shoulders. That's above 10 tfachim. So we know that they're carrying. We know people are carrying in Rishut HaRabim. We know they're carrying from Rishut HaYachid to Rishut HaRabim also above Yud Tvachim. And that's clear in the Bnei Kod story, not only in the Agalot. So it can't be that. Ella, right, but it must be that we're talking about throwing, not that we're carrying, not that we're passing, not that we're moving, but rather we're throwing. And what do we see from this? So but we see the machloket, according to Rabbi Kiva, is that you're chayev below Yud Tvachim, and above Yud Tvachim you're not going to be chayev. Shema Mino. What do you see the machloket is between Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim? It's below Yud Tvachim. What's the machloket? Not about comparing throwing to Alshata, to carrying. The machloket is about kluta, k'misha, and chadami. Do we say when you throw it through Rishut HaRabim, real life Rishut HaRabim, it's considered stationary or not? That's actually the crux of the machloket between Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim. That's the opinion of Rabbi Hamnuna, and that'll probably be a good place for us to stop at this point. Now, the problem is, I just have to let you know that's not the final conclusion. There'll be two other approaches how to interpret it, but this is good enough to keep us. Now, the reason it's good enough to keep us, you have to burn in your brain, because I'm away next Monday. I'm personally away. My daughter's making a bas mitzvah in Baltimore on Sunday, so we're driving for Shabbos. And the week after that is not my fault. You're going to have to blame it on Shavuos. Okay? Yes. So we're going to have to hold here until we come back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. All right? So I'll send you guys an email reminder that I'm away on Monday, but it's my fault or my simcha, and I'm not going to schlep back in time. My wife says, "What about your class?" I said, "My class will be okay." Don't worry. All right. So we'll take us up there, but just keep in mind the concept of kluta k'mishuncha. We'll try to get by next time a better interpretation of kluta k'mishuncha, but I don't promise you that I'll find one. Okay. Stop here. Okay.
Berlin is on tonight.
Oh, this is it.